Welcome. I'm Ben Redwine, the CEO of Intelligent Spend Management for APJ. There's an old quote I like that money is of no value because it cannot spend itself. It all depends on the skill of the spender. This quote is more relevant than ever. Procurement is now in focus as we're essential to deliver cost savings and ensure business continuity. But if history is our guide, as this crisis passes, we will also move out of focus. So how do we change the narrative this time? We will always be asked to deliver savings, but what about our impact on society? With our skill as a spender, I believe we can deliver on both, savings and social impact. I'm thrilled to welcome two leaders in this space, Cemal Ezel and Adaire Fox-Martin. Cemal is the founder and CEO of Change Please. Change Please is a social enterprise supporting people out of homelessness through life-changing coffee. Adaire is SAP's executive board member for customer success, and she's no stranger to APJ, where she led the region for years before joining the board in 2017. Adaire, it's great to see you. Thanks for joining us. We recently learned that you've been named a Global Vice Social Ambassador for the social enterprise sector. Congratulations. You've been passionate about this space for a long time. Could you explain why social enterprises are so important?
Hey, thanks, Ben, and thanks so much for having me. It's great to be back in APJ, even if it is virtually. Look, when I think about SAP and I think about our mission statement, it's about making the world run better and improving people's lives. And that just speaks to the narrative of social enterprise, because I feel that social enterprise can show us the way. As businesses, as corporations, we have an obligation to profit and an obligation to the bottom line. And we measure ourselves on how we achieve that obligation. Social enterprises show us the way that you can not only have profit, but that you can also clearly articulate the power of and by having profit and purpose. And that as a result of being profitable, you can actually live your purpose to a much greater extent. So I think social enterprises are essentially the future of business.
Yeah, when I think about social enterprises and just the relevance that they have, I know many of those watching today are in procurement, and they want to do more than just drive cost out of their business. So how do you think they can play a role here?
Every single one of us that runs a company has a series of requirements. And those requirements are known as the indirect goods and services. The things that just basically keep us running, right? The paper in the printer machine, the stationery in the cupboard, the coffee in the machine, the water in the machine, and so on. Every one of us needs to buy those items. And I think today we can make a choice about how we buy those items, because those items can be supplied, and many more in fact, by social enterprises. So that in buying the goods and services that we need anyway to run our businesses, we can actually buy them in the context of impact. It's a very simple choice. You can choose to buy a ream of paper, or you can choose to buy a ream of paper where the impact of that purchase will affect the lives of girls in Africa through a foundation that seeks to educate them. And it's been just amazing to work with the procurement professionals who've had the opportunity to make these decisions. I think in our UK operation, our procurement leader described himself as moving from Chief Procurement Officer to Chief Purpose Officer, because the level of engagement was so extreme in terms of making decisions that you know are going to have categorical impact. But the truth is, for every $1 that you spend or submit or invest through your CSR program, we as companies spend $400 on indirect goods and service. So a simple choice to redirect our procurement can have a substantial impact.
I think in a way this is elevating the role of procurement, and it's exciting to see how we can have that kind of impact with their spend. Speaking of having an impact, we're joined today by Cemal Ezel. Cemal, you founded Change Please to support people out of homelessness. I'd love to know what inspired you to do this, and tell us about how that journey's been so far.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you for having me today. So I'm the founder and CEO of Change Please Coffee. I set up Change Please 5.5 years ago. It does feel a lot longer than that. And it was on kind of a personal growth mission that I had. I was a commodity broker, commodity trader 5.5, 6 years ago. I thought I had my dream job. I had everything I wanted. My parents were immigrants, so money and personal income was how I valued my personal level of success. And I started to realize actually there has to be more to life than just, for me anyway, accumulating wealth. And it was on a trip to Vietnam, which I was on an 18-hour bus journey. And on that bus journey, an American traveler sat next to me. And we just got chatting. I explained that I wasn't too content with my job and my life. And he said, look, you know, if you're not happy, you should do the rocking chair test. So that's to imagine sitting in your rocking chair at the age of 90, looking back on your life and thinking, what have you achieved? What's your legacy on the world? Have you left the world in a better place? And fundamentally, who's going to remember you? You know, a couple of weeks later, we went to a town in Vietnam called Hoi An, which there's a silent tea house run by ladies who are deaf and mute. And, you know, all of the profits went into supporting other people in their community that were deaf and mute as well. And I just remember thinking, you can do business and good at the same time. I came back to the UK and I handed in my job handed in my notice at my job a few weeks later, and I set up Change Please. And in the last 4 or 5 years, well, especially in the last 2 years, we've been the fastest growing coffee business in the UK. We've expanded across the UK into France, Australia, opened our charity in the US and Ireland as well. So, and it's with partners like SAP that we're really allowed to kind of grow and expand into different markets and make a difference to the world that we live in, just through organizations changing what coffee they purchase.
Wow. That's some sage wisdom you got from the American traveler in terms of the rocking chair test. I know that resonates with a lot of people. Probably when they hear that story, it resonates with me. I know people who are watching this want to support social enterprises, but according to a recent Ardent Partners survey, procurement's top priorities in the COVID environment are, as you can imagine, cost savings, cash flow, and supply chain visibility. How would you respond to that?
So I think we have to change the narrative away from being those points being mutually exclusive. You can absolutely do both at the same time. You can focus on your bottom line on making profits, but also doing good. And when organizations decide to buy social, they're fundamentally deciding to build a better world. And if it can be as easy as using the Ariba platform to look at a range of products and SKUs of, in our case, coffee or water or AV equipment or whatever the case may be, and just choosing a social alternative, as long as the quality, the price, and the convenience to purchase that product is still there, then with a social product, there's an upside of potentially, you know, supporting people with autism or homelessness, or building a well in Africa, or providing clean sanitation to a village which, you know, has been underserved. You know, just by changing the SKU or the line item that procurement person chooses, we can absolutely have the same benefits to the bottom line, make profit, the same product to the employees of the company that person's purchasing for, but fundamentally help people around the world. You know, in January of 2020 of this year, I was saying that this next decade is going to be the decade of social procurement. And in my mind, the coronavirus has absolutely sped that up. It's not going to be the next decade, it's going to be the next 5 years. And a lot of the organizations that we work with, we're being told that, you know, if organizations are buying social now, then they're at a competitive advantage. If they're not buying social within the next 4 or 5 years, then they're going to be at a competitive disadvantage. So that gives me a lot of hope that actually people are starting to take note of this paradigm shift that we're in.
If you can make the price, the value, the service elements table stakes with the alternative, and you look at the bigger picture, to your point, it's not just the actual social impact that you're having. There are other ways that you're actually generating a financial impact. When you think about that, they're supporting what, you know, consumers care about for that particular company, or the impact that it has on employees and productivity. I know when we launched the diversity marketplace in Australia, one of the things IAG was so excited about was the fact that now all these employees actually wanted to go into Ariba to do their buying because they want to participate in the diversity marketplace. So in turn, then they get a lot of visibility into their spend. They get a lot of compliance and savings because people are actually using the platform. Yeah, I want to change the direction a little bit, and it's aligned to this. But I'm wondering, in your role, can you speak to how technology supports your work, especially with how you connect with your buyers?
Yeah, absolutely. So technology is crucial in the way that we interact with our consumers, our partners, our customers. The more technology we can integrate into what we do on a daily basis, the more automated we can make our supply chains and connect with our partners, the quicker that we're going to grow. And also it fundamentally saves us revenue. If we can leverage more platforms like Ariba and support us with our procurement and our sales and reach an audience that we wouldn't normally be able to reach, then fundamentally it's going to help us save money and achieve more impact in our day-to-day activities. Our audience ranges from Gen Zs, millennials, baby boomers, whichever category, but we're seeing an absolute uptick in the amount of Gen Zs and millennials that are buying our products. In the next 2 years, there's going to be 2.26 billion Gen Zs. That's going to account for nearly 40% of all consumers in the world. And, from nearly every single research that's being done, Gen Zs are kind of more influenced to buy a product if it does good. There was a study from Deloitte where they said 70% as high as that. So, and we also see that those Gen Zs are buying social products, but they're also interacting through more and more through technology. So the more that we can integrate technology into our day-to-day operations and reach an audience which are actively looking for socially minded products, the more impact we're going to have on a quicker basis.
Thanks for sharing that. And Adaire, I had a question for you as well. You mentioned just social enterprises are integral to SAP's mission. What is SAP doing to also help our customers to connect with and work with social enterprises?
Well, I think, Cemal made some very valid points there around just the necessity of this from a business perspective. Your customers are demanding it, your employees are demanding it, and the investor community is demanding it. And, just to reiterate from the business side, some of the myths that are existing around social procurement. Myth one, social enterprises are too expensive. Absolutely not the case in our case at all, right? We've moved in the UK business 2.5% of our spend already to social procurement, and we're seeing better quality, better service, and for a better cost, right? Social enterprises deliver low quality. Not true. In fact, in our case, the quality is higher than the quality that we experienced before. And myth three, social enterprises are too small to deliver to corporates. Well, I can personally tell you that SAP has some incredibly stringent procurement policies, and that we've engaged with that 2.5%, 20 social enterprises in the UK across 4 of our procurement categories, and they're all in full compliance to our very stringent procurement requirements. So I just wanted to make sure that from the business side, it was clear that those myths are myths. What we've experienced is the complete opposite. And in terms of how we help, so it's not just helping by procuring in a socially minded way ourselves as a company. We are the proud owners and facilitators of the Ariba network. And that network, as you know better than anybody, Ben, today transacts $3.5 trillion of business-to-business commerce. And what we're doing in partnership with leading social enterprise interest organizations all around the world is onboarding social enterprises who are corporate ready onto the network. So that, as Cemal said, when you're searching in a certain category, you will be able to see if there's a social enterprise who is corporate procurement ready, available to provide that service to you. And therefore, it gives you the opportunity to, in the moment, make that decision to make a difference. Sure. And we've formalized our ambition here at SAP. We call this formal ambition 5 and 5 by 25. That means for us as a company across the world, we want to have 5% of our spend by 2025 into social and diverse businesses. And of course, the opportunity exists for others to join us so that collectively, we can demonstrate that corporates are impacted and focused on profit and purpose, and that we can choose to make a difference by simply choosing how we spend the money that we were going to spend anyway.
Well, if it's not clear by now, it should be clear that we're giving customers the tools to actually go about making it easy for them to contribute as well. I just wanted to say a big thanks to you both. Cemal, your story is inspiring to me. What you've done with Change Please and Adaire, becoming a global ambassador and just championing this cause, not just within SAP, but outside of it. As I've listened to both of you, I think what's clear to me is that if I'm a company listening to this, I can have both. I can have the financial impact and I can have the social impact. If I'm walking away from this today, I can begin to make these changes. It would be great if everybody got on the bandwagon and committed to 5 and 5 by 25, joined the diversity marketplace. And what I'll say is if we were able to direct just 1% of our commerce annually on the Ariba network towards social and diverse enterprises, that would create 500,000 new jobs annually. When I was recently on the Change Please website, I was reminded of Steve Jobs' words. The ones who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.